Next, let's talk about the expectation to procreate that is often placed on men. So, oftentimes in groups of men, the conversation revolves around women in a sexual context. Some might even call it objectification. Rather than thinking of women as human beings, sometimes men will think of women as sexual objects. So, why? Why do we do that? Well, first, we have to understand how men exist in friendship with one another, which is usually a friendship of doing stuff together. It's like, we play video games together, we go to the movies together, we play sports together. But in terms of like emotional support or emotional intimacy, there's usually very little of that in friendships between men. And on the other hand, women are actually encouraged in our society to be very emotional and to talk about their feelings. And so in their friendships with other women, they cry together, they talk about their problems together, and they support each other emotionally. And so then when men and women come together, what tends to happen is that there is this complete like mismatch between the two. Because men are trying to solve the problem, which is what they have been taught and encouraged to do, and women are trying to emotionally process, which is what they've been taught and encouraged to do. And it causes relationships to fail all the time, which would be bad enough. But on top of that, men are also expected to sort of like be the pursuers. They're expected to like ask the woman out, propose to the woman. And the woman has the right to say yes or no. And so then men end up feeling really rejected and lonely. But remember, we're actually not allowed to feel rejected and lonely. That would be weak, and we have to be strong as men. So instead, we feel the one emotion that we're allowed to feel, which is anger. And it's much easier to be angry at someone when you think about them as not a person. If you think about them as a person, there's like compassion and like, oh, like this is a fellow human being. But if they're just an object, it's easy to be angry at them. And so that results in all sorts of things that cause problems. The lowest on the scale is like catcalling. And men even get confused about this. They're like, what's the big deal? Like if a bunch of women were to catcall me, I would feel great about that. That'd be awesome. And I think that the analogy that I have heard that really sort of drives this home the best is that you're thinking about people catcalling you that you would want catcalling you. But just for a second, imagine if you were like walking through a men's prison and all of the inmates are catcalling you and hitting on you and trying to get you to come over. Think about how uncomfortable, unsafe, and dangerous that would feel. And you can start to understand what women feel in those kinds of situations. And, women will even talk about things like, oh, like men can't control themselves. It's like, why do you think men can't control themselves? It's because they are so emotionally suppressed and all of those feelings stay the age that they are. And so, just like a kid, we don't have great impulse control. So, there's all these problems. Seems like a huge, huge problem. What do we do about it? Well, it starts in a very strange place, which actually has nothing to do with women. It has to do with your friends. As you engage in friendships with other men, start to be emotionally vulnerable. Start to support them emotionally and ask for emotional support in return. Start to form intimacy in your friendships with men. Because as you do that, you get practice so that when you enter into the battlefield, so to speak, with women, you are able to actually speak the same language and work things out together. And it's not so horribly mismatched. And by doing this, you will start to have more successful relationships. And in having more successful relationships, you will start to feel happier, less lonely and rejected, less angry. You'll start objectifying women less and start feeling like women are actually human beings, seeing women as actual human beings. And because you're seeing women as actual human beings, it will actually be much easier to talk to them because they're not some alien entity. They're just people that you can just talk to. And like, if you get along with them, great. If you don't get along with them, you move on to the next. So, I hope that this helps in your navigation of the expectation to procreate.